Okay, so firstly, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for attending today's webinar. This is one of a number of continued updates we've been doing around Microsoft's NCE changes, and thank you for taking the time to join us this afternoon. The idea of today's webinar is to have a run through the very latest changes that have been announced from Microsoft this year. What we'll go through today is to start illustrating how these licensing changes will affect you and your business, and how, as a Microsoft Gold partner, we can help advise you on what you need to do next. So I can see from the attendee list, we have a great deal of our clients on the call. So thank you for attending, and hello for any of you that I haven't caught up for in a while. For those of you that don't know Planet IT, I just wanted to quickly go over what we potentially offer and help with. As you can see from these areas, we do everything from help our clients source a hard drive or software renewal, right through to providing the outsourced expertise to design, implement and support almost any solution through your infrastructure. We're an ever-growing team of almost 90 people now, and we benefit from having some great people internally to help with almost anything you need. So on today's webinar, I'm very fortunate to have Adam on the call with me today. Between the two of us, we're going to tag team through today's content and provide everything you need to know, and we will make sure it's emailed to you directly following the event. The webinar is recorded and we will share following the event, so don't feel that you need to frantically try and take any notes or screenshots as we go. If during the event you have any questions, please feel free to use the Q&A on the side of your screen, and we'll try and pick up any of those answers. Any questions we can't get to, we will make sure we follow up on, and we'll leave our contact details at the end should you want to reach out and talk to us about your individual circumstances and understand what this actually means to you specifically and your business. So firstly, I'm going to need to introduce some terminology. We all love an abbreviation in IT. So, and around NCE. It's important that I start with this, as we're going to be abbreviating NCE throughout these slides rather than saying the new commerce experience. It will be NCE. And legacy essentially will be the position that you'll be in today and how you're consuming licenses on a monthly basis at the moment. And through these slides, we'll be going through the NCE, or the new commerce experience, and what it means, and when, and most importantly, when it starts to take effect.
So here's a bit of a timeline. We've spent a lot of time with our licensing partner to make sure that we're ready to support you through this change. As we know, Microsoft like to keep us on our toes, and they have since moved the goalposts a couple of times already. So let's go over some quick key dates. So the 10th of January, the NCE went live and licenses were available to order from this date, which was about 2.5 weeks ago. Note that this date was pushed back a couple of times by Microsoft due to negative feedback from larger partners. The 27th of January, which is today, we are giving you this information again. This happens to be the 4th time we've run this webinar on this particular topic, but we feel this is such an important topic to cover, and we think it's so important to keep you guys up to date with the latest information. And the 1st of March, current 365 licensing goes end of life and cannot be ordered in its current form. If you haven't got an agreement in place by this point, then you can expect your monthly pricing to go up around 20% unless you have a CSP agreement in place by this point. It's worth noting that if you pay for your 365 licensing annually, you are in theory protected for the 12 months since its start date. Protected for the 12 months since its start date. But remember that Microsoft reserves the right to change things or revoke the price protection should you have they can revoke it at notice. So yeah.
Okay, cheers, Adam. So what does the new look like? I think the best way to do that is to look at what's available today versus what this will look like moving forward. So from a Microsoft perspective, if you want to purchase Microsoft licenses, whether that be SQL, Windows Server, 365 licenses, etc., you essentially have 6 main channels available to you to purchase those from. And these vary depending on the size of your business. So Adam, if you can.
Oh, apologies.
No worries. There we go. There's your 6 main channels. So yeah, these 6 main channels are there in what that means today. So the EA Selects and MPSA are termed agreements for a set number of years with a fixed price. CSP is the method for managing the monthly billing. And then you have Web Direct, which is where you have the option to directly transact with Microsoft for those licenses. So this current situation actually makes it extremely difficult from a Microsoft perspective. Firstly, to ensure pricing is parity across all the agreements, along with the complexity of adding and removing licenses. So moving forward, Microsoft is simplifying this into 3 main channels for purchasing ongoing. So option 1 is you have the EA termed agreements. Now, the EA termed agreements are specifically for large businesses, and they will be moving the minimum commitment of users up to 2,400 seats specifically for EA. So for some of our larger clients on this webinar, that will be something that will affect you moving forward. Option 2 is you have the CSP, or the cloud service provision, which is essentially procuring licenses through a partner like Planet IT and consuming these licenses monthly. Now, currently under legacy, you have the option to be able to pro-rata those even to the day, whereas now moving forward, rather than pro-rating them to maybe 5 days of usage within a month, if you turn a license on within the month, you're then committed to pay for the whole month, regardless of when you've added it. And we will come on to explain that on another slide further down the line. And finally, option 3. Sorry, I had to go back one.
James normally does this.
Yeah, the joys of you controlling it. And finally, option 3. So Web Direct is changing to only be available for SMB and startup businesses, and Microsoft will slowly be taking away the ability to purchase licenses directly with them, and they will start to point you in the direction of purchasing licenses through a partner. So if you're a client at the moment where you're doing a mix and you're essentially buying licenses through a CSP partner like ourselves or someone else, and you're doing some licenses with Microsoft Directs, which we often see, what Microsoft will start to do from today moving, or certainly from the beginning of this year moving forward, will be asking you to go back through the CSP partner that you have and actually revoking or removing that ability to transact with them directly. Now, that helps Microsoft from a support perspective, because actually some of the support will sit directly with us as a gold partner or potential gold partner for some of our new clients on here. And that essentially wraps up the option 3. So onto this slide, just to go through some of the major changes that are live as of today. Starting with what's live today. So firstly is the option to commit your licenses as a 1-year term. There are a number of 365 licenses that will only be available as a 1-year commitment. So this is going to be one of the biggest changes, and I'll come on to show a pricing example that will highlight this on some Office 365 licenses. These are then available as either upfront purchase for the whole year for that license, or you commit to a 1 year on that license and pay for it monthly. I hope everyone's keeping up with me. Again, we can be available to go over these. And again, we'll come on to explain that in a bit more detail. I think the headline across all of these is that if you want to continue the flexibility of only committing to a license month to month, the price increase across the board is going to be as much as 27% on some of those licenses. On average, we've done some analysis and it looks around 20% across the board. Microsoft have planned to introduce the 3-year SKU options, but this is currently delayed for later in the year, and we're still awaiting an announcement on what that's going to look like. It's not available to us yet, and we haven't had any indication on what those discount structures might be like for 3 years. So, as a customer, you're going to have the option to blend both a long and short-term commitment, and we can help advise you on what is best for your business. So if I provide an example, if I was a company wanting 20 business premium licenses, you could opt to commit to 10 business premium licenses on an annual commitment and benefit from the discount structure in place on the annual commitment. and then have the flexibility of having 10 licenses on a month-to-month commitment, which then gives you the flexibility if you want to turn any licenses off for leavers within your business. So with any of these changes in licenses, as part of the new structure, you're going to have a 72-hour cancellation period. But after this time, you're then fully committed to whichever term you agree. So again, to provide an example, if you committed to 10 business premium licenses today, you'd have 72 hours from today to cancel that license. And if you committed to an annual agreement, you would be responsible for paying for that license every month for the rest of the year, regardless of whether you need that license or not. So it is a big, big change. And Adam's going to go over the difference between the monthly and the annual SKUs on the next slide.
Yeah,
and lastly,
right. Yeah,
it's
a big old slide. Yeah.
And lastly, as part of all these changes, we'll require any clients to sign up to terms and conditions as part of a new clear contractual agreement. So again, for clients that are with us today, we haven't necessarily done that at the start of any agreements, but certainly for any new agreements with the complexity of annual and monthly, lovely, thank you, Microsoft, we need to make sure that we're being as transparent as possible about what you are and what you're not committed to moving forward. So, on to you, Adam, just to explain the monthly and annual differences.
Right, there you go. So to help visualize this, we've put together a cheat sheet, as it were, which will hopefully better show you how this is going to work. Let's look at a monthly example first. So day one, we start with 10 Microsoft 365 Business Standard seats, and then at some point in the month, we want to decrease that count by 5. By the end of the 30 days, we will still be charged for the 10 seats for the complete 30-day purchase periods. After 30 days, you will only pay for 5 seats, but you will then be hit by the price uplift that has been announced by Microsoft, which means you will pay a little bit more for those seats. You can upgrade at any point. So to increase to 15 seats, that's fine, but you will pay for the 15 seats for the full month. So if you wanted to upgrade them halfway through the month, doesn't matter, you still pay for the whole month. You can downgrade, suspend, or cancel subscriptions within 72 hours of the start of the subscription. At the start of every licensing term, you have a 72-hour window to cancel or downgrade free of charge. But once that 72 hours is up, you will be invoiced for the whole month. Hang on a minute, sorry, clicks on, there you go. Price protection is for the minimum term, of which this case is 30 days. Once the 30 days is up, Microsoft can increase the price every month if they want to, and you'll just have to pay for it. So in our annual example, we again start with 10 Microsoft 365 Business Standard seats. But if we want to decrease that seat count mid-term, we are still charged for the 10 seats for the duration of the annual agreement. We can increase at any point throughout the annual term, but this will increase the minimum seat count of the agreement, and we are charged as such. Once an increase in seat count has been made, it cannot be decreased again. So to expand on what Aid said earlier, it's better to start low and increase through the term, as this means you are less likely to waste unused seats. Again, you can downgrade, suspend, or cancel a subscription within 72 hours of the start date of the subscription. But after this 72-hour window, you will have to honour the annual agreement. Price protection will be for the entire 365 days of the annual agreement. And at the end of this agreement, any scheduled price increases will be applied. Note that you will have 72 hours from the annual renewal to downgrade, suspend, or cancel the subscription as you see fit.
All right, so I appreciate that last, certainly the first time I saw that last slide was quite complicated. So what we wanted to do is actually provide some real world cost examples around the published list prices, essentially. So all of what I'm about to provide is published list pricing from Microsoft. So many of you may be purchasing these licenses lower than these prices, but as a Microsoft Gold partner, we can provide discounts as part of our value add, essentially. But for the purposes of what I'm about to do, this is just published list pricing. So first up is Exchange Online Plan 1. So today, the legacy pricing is £3 per month. and that's a month-to-month rolling commitment on the legacy monthly rolling. Now, Microsoft are no longer offering this license as a monthly rolling commitment, and to continue with this license, you will have to commit to the license for at least a year. Okay, so that's one of a good example of one of the first major changes. As for the next three, as you can see, the pricing to continue to have the flexibility to consume these licenses on a month-to-month basis will be going up some 18%. Okay, so it's quite a considerable increase on just those three, what we would deem as our three most popular SKUs. However, that said, if you commit to having these licenses for an entire year, you can still pay monthly, but you're committed to buying those licenses for an entire year. Essentially, the price will remain the same as what you pay today on legacy. And this is part of the discount structure that they're folding in at the moment. And as for Intune, again, this is the same as Exchange Online Plan 1, in that this will only be available as an annual commitment. Again, you'll be able to still continue to pay for it monthly, but you'll be committed to that license annually. And looking right across the board, across all the Microsoft 365 SKUs, of which there's between 300 and 500, there's different different scenarios for each SKU. So for your particular circumstance, if we haven't reached out already, then please do, and we'll help essentially analyze what you have and show you what your options are the best we can moving forward. So to continue on some cost analysis, let's take a 300 user company consuming Office 365 E3 licenses. Okay, so within this table, we have the pricing on what it is today from a legacy perspective. So essentially £17.60 per user per month, times the 300 users is just over £5,000. Now, if that same company wanted to continue with the flexibility of having that license on a month-to-month basis, so this isn't the annual pricing, this is just continuing with the same level of commitment as you are today, that will go up to just over £6,000 per month, which across a year is £12,000. So that's obviously a whopping £12,000 as well. Now, when you consider this is just one license amongst, I'm sure others, a company of that size must be consuming, it's essential that you work with a partner like ourselves to understand what the differences could mean for you. Because, a company of that size will obviously have multiple other 365 licenses, and actually the true scale of the price increase could be significant moving forward.
So a word on open agreements. So something many of you may already have in place is an open agreement, or open licensing as it's also known. This is where you would have bought a perpetual license for example, Windows Server 2022. You will have paid a one-off price for it and you own it. This won't change as you still own that license. From now on, though, you cannot buy any seat-based licenses tied to perpetual licenses. In the past, you will have been able to add Office 365 licenses to an open agreement, but this will no longer be available to do. Also, perpetual licenses will need to be purchased via a CSP agreement and will be available in the CSP portal. Moving forward, any existing software assurance coverage will end naturally at the end of the current term. As such, software assurance will no longer be available. For example, if you buy a Windows Server 2022 license and want to upgrade that to Windows Server 2025 when it arrives, you will have to buy a new Windows Server 2025 perpetual license via CSP, as software assurance no longer applies. It's worth noting that the existing licenses you may have already purchased will stay where they are in the older portal, whether that be VLSC or 365, and that some of the license pricing has already increased should you want to purchase it now. Many of you will already be familiar with this, so just a quick overview of Microsoft's shared responsibility model for software as a service, i.e. Office 365. Microsoft's responsibility is to provide and maintain the infrastructure that their services sit on. Anything physical will be maintained by Microsoft to the point where it isn't even visible to you. Things like physical servers, physical network, and even the data center itself is down to Microsoft to keep running. For the shared responsibility, Microsoft provide identity and access management tools such as Azure AD and role-based access control, but it is your responsibility to manage the accounts, their access permissions, and the security structure of your directory. And then finally, it's your responsibility to keep your devices and the software itself up to date and to keep the data that you are storing on Microsoft services safe and secure. It is your responsibility, not Microsoft's, to ensure that your data is backed up properly, as this is not something that 365 does for you. And then just a quick recap on the timeline. New commerce experience, NCE, became available to order on the 10th of January. Today, we're sharing this information with you again. And from this point, you have 33 days to get something in place if you want to avoid the price jump on the 1st of March.
Okay, thanks, Adam. So yeah, a quick whistle-stop tour really across all of the new Microsoft price changes. Really just to sort of open up to any questions that either Adam or myself can help with. I don't know if you've had many come through. Hold on 2 seconds. Okay, so the first question that we've come through here is, what happens if we have an annual commitment and then want to add a new user during the year? Is the extra charge backdated? Adam, is that one you can pick up?
So this is obviously something we can find out for sure, but as far as I understand it, what will happen is you'll be doing the NCE monthly, right? So you've got the annual agreement, but you're paying for it monthly. But you want to go from, in my example, 10 to 15 users. You will go up to 15 users for the entire month of that month, and you will be billed for 15 users moving forward. And then that will be your minimum user level.
Yeah, and essentially what it does is it pushes out your renewal date, so it proratas everything together. It's essentially quite complicated, and it isn't something we've done yet because the NCE has only just been launched, but something we could reach out and have a discussion with on a one-to-one basis. So thank you for that one.
Yeah, at the end of the day, this is all just theory at the moment, isn't it? Obviously, the change is happening, but from a real world point of view, us at Planet IT, you know, we've worked with our distributor to get us up to date in the knowledge as we can be. But until you kind of work with it and see those examples in the wild, it's quite difficult to say exactly what's going to happen. But you know, we do what we can, and you know, we'll share the best our best knowledge with you guys.
All right, fantastic. Another question that we've just got come in. Are we going to see any change in the non-profit pricing? As of today, no, that NCE doesn't apply to any educational or non-for-profit. It's only everything outside of that at the moment. Can't say for sure. Again, we have asked a question around whether that will ultimately be affecting you moving forward. But as of right now, we've been told it doesn't.
It's those goalposts again, isn't it?
Yeah.
Microsoft get like that, like the 3-year. You know, originally that was available, and now it's not. You know, so they do keep changing the details. So it's worth remembering that.
Fantastic. So another question has come in. So if committing to 1 year for a license, can this be transferred between staff members, Adam?
Yes. So, but you have to remember that. So say as long as your maximum user count for that month stays at, let's use the 10 example again. So you have 8 users, and then 2 of those licenses are transferred to another 2 within the month. That would still be 10, because that's 10 unique users within the month. But ultimately, to answer the question, yes, you can, but you just have to be careful about timescales and how it affects the total unique users in the month.
Okay, fantastic. Let's have a look at the next. Can we have a mix of annual and monthly subscriptions? So yes, absolutely. So that's been largely a part of our advice to lots of companies, is actually to have a blend of both, so that you can benefit from the discount of the annual commit, So for a company that we'd be advising, we'd say, look, how many people do you expect to be at least between now and the end of the year? A company that's 100 users in size might anticipate there'll definitely be 80 users by the end of the year. So essentially putting 80 on that annual commitment doesn't expose you from a risk perspective in not using those licenses, and then putting the remainder of those licenses on a month-to-month commitment then provides you with the flexibility to be able to turn those licenses on and off as to when you require them, so that you have a blend of both. Another question. So do you have any summary documents charts showing the licenses Microsoft have available and what they include? For example, EM&S, E3 and E5. Yes, we do. So I've got my contact details at the end of this slide deck, so you'll be able to forward them out to us, or if you have an account manager here at Planet IT, feel free to reach out. We also have a dedicated team here at Planet of licensing experts as well that will be available for you to have conversations about your specific licensing requirements. So if we're not your current MSP provider, all you need to simply do is send us a screenshot of the licenses that you currently consume today, and then we can provide you all of the firstly all of the features and functionalities of those licenses, so you can ensure that you're consuming the correct license either for the size of your business or for what you need out of that license. And then we'll take it that next step further around, okay, so what type of license is going to be best for you, whether it be annual or monthly rolling. Okay. What if the 72-hour cancellation time falls over a weekend or bank holiday? That's a very good question.
In one word, it sounds really harsh, but tough, really. It's not weekdays. It is literally, around the clock, 72 hours. So yeah. You would need to, if it's something you're planning on doing, you'd obviously need to plan ahead a little bit. So yeah, no, it is over a bank holiday. And one example that I used when talking to someone was, the Easter weekend. Obviously, you've got a 4-day weekend. Some people even have a 5-day weekend. Something falls on that date, then it's tough luck, really. But if you plan ahead and make sure that you're covered, then it shouldn't be an issue, really.
Yeah, and I think also to pick up on that, that's something we identified as a partner very early on with the licensing team, and we actually set a process within the team to say where we can we please make sure that we're actually adding licenses on a Monday or Tuesday of that week, as opposed to the tail end of the week where we don't have the time for that cancellation period. So certainly from starting a new agreement, we'll always make sure that's done as early as possible in the month, because obviously you've got to pay for the whole license for that month if you're on a monthly rolling. And also from the 72-hour cancellation period is making sure that's all in place as well. Cool. Any more questions? Can we still purchase non-profit licensing from the web portal, or will that be removed? As I mentioned before, none of the NCE changes or the web direct changes are being pushed out to non-profit or educational at this moment. So I don't believe that's going to be removed immediately. Certainly, we haven't heard anything immediately. I do think that will change moving forward. I think that the way that Microsoft, much like the 3-year legacy SKU, I think they're looking to phase that throughout the year. So they're going with the big bang of the new annual commitment licensing and trying to drive people to sign up for those licensing and the new commerce experience before March. I think later in the year we'll see the introduction of a 3-year SKU, probably much later in the year. And I think as part of their phased approach, they'll then start introducing education and non-profit as part of that roadmap moving forward. So certainly for any clients that we've got on non-profit or education, like with these webinars, we're trying to be as transparent with our information, and any updates we get from Microsoft, we want to be passing back to our clients as soon as possible. So the minute we hear anything, we can reach out and make sure that you're informed. But certainly keep an eye on our socials. So our LinkedIn Planet IT page, we're often posting stuff up there on some of the latest changes and just going from there. Okay, fantastic. So that's pretty much all of the questions that we've received so far. If anybody does have any other questions, please feel free to reach out to myself and Adam. My contact details are there. So yeah, my name's Adrian. I'm the sales director here at Planet. So I've been here for, wow, coming up to 16 years of the 18 years that we've been going as a business, and I've obviously been involved in all of the new Microsoft launches this year and all of the licensing. So please feel free to forward any inquiries direct to myself, and I'll make sure I'll forward that direct back into our licensing team or your relevant account manager. On to the next slide. Oh, I think that's it.
No, that's it. That is it.
Yeah. All right, fantastic. I thought there was another one in there. So yeah, thank you everyone for attending today's webinar. I hope you found it useful. Like I say, we're here to support you. There is an awful lot of information to take in there, and certainly as a business, it's taken us quite a period of time just to get our heads around, you know, what is going to be the right licensing methods and making sure that we've got the experts here internally to help you make those decisions for your business moving forward. Obviously, there's some significant price increases there. So yeah, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. And thanks again for attending this afternoon's webinar.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, guys. It's been great.